All right, here we are for another exciting edition of the Nairobi Health Show with Dr. Darrell Misak. Dr. Misak, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you, and for you to take the time and come on. And in our preamble, we were chatting about some of the things you do. I'm really excited to get into the weeds on this. But first of all, let me introduce you properly and read your bio to everyone who is listening. Dr. Darrell Misak is a doctor of naturopathic medicine and a licensed pharmacist. After receiving his degree in pharmacy, he gained years of university hospital clinical pharmacy experience at Duke University Medical Center with a primary focus in oncology and general medicine. He then began to realize the pitfalls of traditional medicine and pharmacy. He started his continued search for truth in health, which directed him to naturopathic medicine. He then moved his family across the country to Oregon, where he received his Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine degree from the National College of Naturopathic Medicine. And Dr. Misak now runs a private naturopathic practice in Pittsburgh. And welcome to the show. And you're going to tell us all kinds of great stuff beyond this and what you've learned from all these years of schooling that you've done. You've done a lot of time in school.
I did. I'm one of those people who like school, though. I was one that slammed myself. People are like, well, I took all the classes in homeopathy and all the classes. I could have been a naturopathic midwife. Like, why are you taking this? Like, because we plan on having more kids and I'm never going to be in school again. So, why not learn what I can while I'm here? So
you're one of those weird guys that just loves school.
I like to learn.
Okay.
How's it work?
I love to learn too. But I've got some kind of allergy to formal schooling, I think. So good for you. But in your story, of course, we've got this story of a guy going from a very, very respectable AMA style practice and being a pharmacist. You really learned the ins and outs of drugs and prescriptions, and then, of course, ended up in the natural world. Tell us about your background and what created that shift in your life to move from the, I call it the AMA style of medicine into the naturopathic style?
Well, my gift, like we all have gifts, is figuring out how things work. I love to take things apart. I love to tinker on old cars. I fix everything. It's just kind of my gift, right? And when I got to the human body and studying pharmacy, I loved anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. So if you understand how the body works when you're looking at drugs and understand the mechanisms of how they are, you can kind of extrapolate what's going to happen if that drug's affecting this system. And so when I got to Duke and I'm rounding on oncology, general medicine, and these type of things, and I'm watching these cancer patients die left and right, I started asking questions. Why these people are in a basic catabolic breakdown state? Why can't we give them what biochemistry teaches with IV vitamin C and IV nutrients? And they're like, well, that's been refuted. That's before 5 kids. That's when I had 1 kid. And then I turned around and started going, before you had Google, you had to go to a medical center or a medical library, and you had to look at those huge med text forms and find the articles. And you had to go and pull the articles from the old, looking at them on microfiche and stuff like that. So I used to go back and I'd pull articles from the 1950s and 60s about cancer. Like, look, vitamin C did this and these nutrients did this in these states. And they're like, that's been refuted. Never found refuted information. But what I did find is a drug focus. And so I started learning about Ralph Moss and these natural oriented physicians who taught a physiological aspect. And then I'm like, oh my God, this makes sense, to me, because how the body works. And then I learned about naturopathic doctors. And then that's where I'm going. These doctors who look at things naturally, understand what caused the issue and how do I fix it. Ended up in Oregon. And then I was blessed to work at a compounding pharmacy while I was there, how to make things. And that led, it was just another blessing of education in that regard. Ended up in Pittsburgh because my wife grew up about an hour from here and wanted to raise our kids near family. But in that whole context, still looking for diving down the rabbit hole of how things work, we're taught cellular concepts. Let's look at organs. Let's look at the adrenals or the thyroid or the liver or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I started going down, breaking it down from that cellular concept, which I've written articles on in Naturopathic Doctor News and Review, to the chemistry that dictates the composition of our body and the terrain of what's going on. And it's a whole rabbit hole that led me to an analytical perspective that just is, I watch miracles. It's incredible.
Awesome. And I want to dive into some of that. I'm still smiling a little bit at one of the comments you made. It's been refuted. Yeah. Who are these people who tell us what's been refuted or what there's no evidence for? Or, we're a supplement seller. We advertise on a lot of different platforms. And every now and then we'll have some guy come on, like glutathione. We sell a lot of glutathion, thousands of bottles a month. Yeah, It's a great product. And the science behind it is incredible. Reams and reams and reams of paper. I mean, anyways, we have a guy come on to one of our ads about glutathione saying, there's no evidence that this works. I'm like, okay. No, and so I gave him a link to almost all credible studies on health in the United States are submitted to the NIH.gov website, National Institutes of Health.
Environmental health perspectives.
I said, dude, there's 70,000 articles on glutathione, 70,000. And so where are these people that can't do a simple Google search before they decide to tell everyone else that something doesn't exist? I don't even get it.
I'm with you.
Right. But you came up to this, the same thing face to face. You have someone telling you that's been refuted by who? Pfizer? By the people making
that was the number. Duke was literally one of the top 3 cancer research institutes in America when I was there. And these are the doctors that are running their program that I was rounding with, and they're like, that's been refuted. And when I brought it what was interesting is when people started asking about natural substances, they'd say, you know what, Darrell's into that. He can come back and talk to you later. And then clients would be like, is this confidential? I'm like, well, of course it's confidential. They're like, no, is this going to go on my chart? And I'm like, no, what would you like to talk to? And I had literally clients who would pull out a suitcase full of natural substances and open it up and say, I know this stuff is keeping me alive. Does it interact with my medications? And it's like all these natural products. And I'm like, because back then they even did studies that showing that 80% of clients would not tell their doctors that they were taking natural substances because their doctors didn't want to know. And I'd be like,
interesting.
And I was like, hell yeah, it's interacting. How it's interacting? We don't know. We just don't know that, because that was even before the books on drug, nutrient, herbal interactions and all the stuff that started to hit first in the late 1990s to early 2000s when those things started coming out.
Right.
And so it's just amazing, the information age of what is available, but what is not even looked at because it's not in the context of surgery, drugs, or whatever in that case.
Follow the money.
Yep.
Follow the money. Well, interesting. One of the things that kind of has me intrigued here is your first talking point. The thing that I want to ask you about is about how energy moves through the body. So this to me is intriguing, that given your bio and your original experience as a pharmacist, that after you went through all this education, that one of your major talking points is about energy, the bioelectric quantum energy concept of the body. So, I would have expected you to have gone down more of a physical route. Like, okay, if we're not going to prescribe something, like you just mentioned, these natural compounds, let's shift in that direction. But what I'm seeing here from what I know, the little bit of what I know about you so far, one of the big things you're talking about is energy. Where did that come from? And talk to us about that.
It came to me from Tesla. If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, you have to think in terms of frequency and vibration. And then Einstein, energy is the same thing as matter with the speed of light constant. So you are matter, which is the same as energy. What is that? Heat and electricity, which is what breaks down to vibration. When anything breaks apart, there's an electrical energy given off, and it's all vibration. And so then a guy named Kerry Reams came about while Einstein was learning to take apart the atom. Kerry Reams says, well, how do we put things together? How do they come back together? And he created what's called the Reams biological theory of ionization. Most people refer to it as RBTI. And so Reams was postulating that if he took the human body, he was an agricultural science. How do I maximize the potential of plants and the energy created by plants? And it came down to looking at composition, frequency, and vibration. And so he did the same thing for human beings. He was the very first person to analyze what frequency a human being is. What frequency are foods? What frequency are other animals? He cataloged over 16,000 frequencies of, what's the frequency of that wood? What's the frequency of ginseng or whatever, of a carrot? Like a lemon is a frequency of a 9. A horse is a frequency of 16. You and I.
Based on what? What's the scale?
He used an oscillator, and he broke it down to the aspects of what we were. So when you go back to ashes, the Bible says, hey, we go back to ashes. That ash is 60% calcium, 24% phosphorus, 12% potassium, and 85 trace minerals make up the rest. And so Reams found the ideal ratio of minerals for the human body, and then he figured out how to test to measure energy efficiency through a simple urine and saliva test, looking at sugars, which dictates potential energy. pH was his resistance or the friction. The higher the pH, the slower things go. So the speed of the energy. Conductivity represents salts and the thickness of body fluids on how energy can move from point A to point B. Cell debris is how your turnover of cells, your body has to get rid of things as well as building energy. And then nitrates, because you have to have nitrogen compounds in order to build healthy cells. So you have nitrates, and ammonia nitrates, which dictate the ability to build proteins or protein destruction, or you have toxic metabolites because you're not digesting your proteins or your body's breaking down. So Reams turned around and put this on a measurable analytical perspective of how to follow energy. And then, so pH tells us where in the body on a y-axis that things are happening. So when people have high urine pH, they typically get lung issues, thyroid issues, sinus issues, teeth issues, brain issues. When people have low pHs, they tend to have prostate issues, female hormonal issues, bad knees, low achy pains, stuff like that. They're too acidic. Their liver gets stressed. And so he put this all in perspective. And so when you're looking at how does energy move, the Chinese identified that because stagnations and congestions and those type of things happen. And we've shown, and people like Emoto and other people have shown that even thought is energy, and that what you think dictates energy and how things can translate into the body. I mean, you look at Milton Erickson, who was the father of hypnosis, who had polio and was in a chair, and he just knew that he could get out by his mind. So it shows that mind over matter. Even physicists like Bohr and Einstein showed that what it came down to is what we expect and believe affect the physical world. So and it's all energy, So
okay, so what was his name again? That discovered that or did that work on the energy and the oscillator measurements?
Dr. Kerry Reams.
And does he have a recommended book you'd recommend to people who are interested?
He wrote a book called Choose Life or Death. There's a free PDF online that you can find it. Choose Life or Death PDF, you'll find it. And Reams explains the world around us from an energetic perspective, from an ionization perspective. And then he says, look, this equation, these numbers, he was a mathematical genius like Einstein. So he proved the body. That equation that he does, we call it the perfect equation. I teach this stuff on YouTube every week. It's under my channel, Doc Misak. And but his perfect equation is the line of least resistance. You have the least resistance, but enough resistance that energy efficiency is maximized in the human body. So therefore, if whatever variable is out, it would point to where in the body the weaknesses are. It gives a picture of health. And I've written articles on that in Naturopathic Doctor News and Review, because I'm like, oh my God, if this is true, this is the purest source of naturopathic medicine out there, because we're looking at all these cellular concepts, and this breaks it down to the chemistry that dictates what happens on the cellular level. And I just watch miracles.
I think it's fascinating. I've always been interested in this. I on an intellectual level, I totally get what you're saying about the energy. I know from science that if you break me down to the tiniest possible point, that there's a wave there that they can't even decide if it's light or if it's matter, and that we are made of energy. I get it. We're made of energy.
It's vibration.
But I have no
vibration.
Yeah, the problem is all my friends who are into this kind of stuff are kind of kooky,
Let me do some Reiki on you. I'm going to move your energy. I can measure it with radionics. Okay, I'm going to use my brain to connect to the universal network of how we're all, and there is valid aspect of research all the way back to the 1920s with radionics, and electrodermal testing. I have an EAV equipment right beside us because you can measure energy points and measure what throws those points out of balance. Reinhardt.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. I didn't mean to, I'm just saying, I know a lot of people who talk about energy, and some of them come across as slick salespeople, and some of them are slick salespeople. And I understand it, but I love how you've taken it to a very practical place of applying it to people's health and improving their health. And I guess what I'm trying to say in a very awkward way is we get this. I think a lot of people get this fact that we're made of energy, that everything's made of energy at the basic level, but making that practical in our daily lives.
I'm equipping people with how to test your own urine and saliva. And then you can get an understanding of what each one of these variables throws you out. So you have your own picture of health and you know how to move these variables by choosing the food that has the appropriate mineral content that you need based upon your own chemistry. By learning to drink enough water based upon, because it's going to flush out what you don't need. And so I'm applying it to a food concept because we all know that diet is individualistic. Your video just went out. But we all know that diet is individualistic. I'm just teaching you how to measure it. I think I lost you. I assume I'm still on. It shows that we're still live. So I will talk, and hopefully you'll get your video back up very soon. And so all these concepts that I sit here and discussed, basically come down to you loving and equipping yourself on how do I take care of it. And that's where I bring it. I do a channel. Like I said, Doc Misak on YouTube. I have a website, docmisak.com, and I have articles on Naturopathic Doctor News and Review because I want to teach other professionals that, look, you can do this. It's amazing. I've done case studies and done these things on there. I've held retreats where we bring people in and we teach them how to eat and what to do based upon their chemistry, and I think that has the most impact. I honestly, your video just went out, and if I'm running your show, I welcome everybody. And I will talk, and hopefully you'll be right back in, and be back on this group. And then we were supposed to talk about so many things, and I don't know if we're going to redo this or not, but it's fascinating. But bottom line is everybody can be healthy because your body self-restores if you create the right environment for it to do so. So then I turn around and explain a concept called 5 phases. Phase 1, pure environment, pure air, pure food, pure water, EMF protection. Clean up what you're putting on your body, what you're showering in, what you're eating, washing off residues, quality foods, non-GMO stuff, Phase 2 is test yourself. Is know what you're specifically reactive to. So let's identify your specific analytical reactant to get them out of your life. Phase 3, support. Support isn't take everything for every known condition. Support is what can we identify that your body needs. And RBTI tells us basic nutrients, basic vitamins. Phase 4, detox. If you healing process always has a discharge and detoxification. You have to get rid of what your body ineffectively couldn't get rid of. And phase 5 is self-awareness, and that's that mental aspect. And so I just kind of package it up. I wrote a book. We're working on the visual descriptors of the book and working on finding a publisher soon to carry that information. And I want to equip everybody to know that you can be healthy. What it comes down to.
I love it. But the strangest thing just happened. I had like a power surge or something, and I got completely cut off. And
it showed that we were still live the whole time. So I just said hello to everybody, and I kept talking, and I knew that you'd get back up. And so
people on Facebook said, you think I can see you, but not him. What happened to Dave, etc. Well, I'm back. Thank you for noticing that I was gone, everybody. And Dr. Misak, way to go. Just carrying the torch, keeping the show going. And so I missed a lot of what you just said, but I
Yeah,
know
you
it was
got to watch
great.
the show again. Yeah. Don't tell him, but I told the greatest thing while he was away. Did you notice? No.
I will listen to that because now I'm really curious. So thank you for taking care of business while I got completely cut off. It's never happened before, but I'm glad to know that if it happens, that I'm the only one who gets booted out. So that the show, someone else on Facebook says he didn't miss a beat. Hey, way to go. Okay, well. So it's hard for me now to pick up and
Well, what we
move
haven't
along.
talked about, and one of the things I wanted to bring up is we were going to talk about the talking point of telomeres and anti-aging, because you do a lot on anti-aging and those types of things. And one of the main issues and the reason that we came on your show is to promote a product, and I want people to understand that health is not in a product, it's in a process. And so that's why I encourage to go back, watch my shows, and
there's a quote,
and learn about the process, not the product, right?
Yeah.
But the product is, while I was in compounding pharmacy and doing all that stuff, I learned about the 2009 Nobel Prize of Medicine by 3 physiologists about telomeres. And
I remember that.
Telomerase. And if telomeres shorten, you age. And you probably taught about that at some capacity. That caught my attention about 2014. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the greatest anti-aging discovery ever, right? And so I started doing Google searching and Medline searching for anything that stimulates telomerase activity. And I found that mostly there's a lot of natural products out there. And so then I looked at what kind of natural telomere products were out there. And they were all basic glorified antioxidants, except a couple of them had that cycloastragenol, 98%, and astragaloside 4, which are extracts of astragalus. And so I turned around and formulated that product called Vitalometry, for vital and telomeres, right? And I put these and I made it based upon the eclectic aspect, because I'm an herbalist as well, but I use herbs when needed to tonify and support, not like take this herb for the rest of your life to fix your urinary issues. You know what I mean? Let's get your body to restore itself is what I teach. But in the process, I look for what has telomere activity, and I combined it with that bioelectric concept, knowing that calcium and like we measure EKGs and EMGs and EEGs, how energy moves through the body. But what they don't tell you, that all of those electrical potentials are initiated with sodium and potassium and going through calcium ion channels, right? Remember that? So
yeah, but hold on a minute. We got a question from someone else on Facebook. Could you back up and do a little bit better explanation of what a telomere is? So there's people that are a little bit hung up on that. So let's just back up a step. You mentioned the research on telomeres, Nobel Prize was given for it, but could you just do like a 2-minute on telomeres?
Telomeres are at the end of your DNA, and as they shorten, you age. Telomeres are responsible for your DNA to turn over and make healthy new cells. They're programming your cells to be as healthy as they can based upon what you have to make healthy cells. So when people are deficient in certain nutrients, you get these breaks, and then you are not making 100% healthy DNA, and that leads to slow breakdown, because now I can't express my best health. So, and as we age, telomeres shorten, but things that can affect. So one of the physiologists, Elizabeth Blackburn, wrote a book called The Telomere Effect. And she in here will explain that if you had trauma as a child, that trauma and that recurrent mental, emotional stuff that comes up, somebody says something to you, hey, and all of a sudden that inner child comes out and triggers those emotions, that negative energy effect can shorten your telomeres. So trauma. And then she showed how meditating can lengthen your telomeres, and how antioxidants can help and certain nutrients can help. But she says, well, there's not enough research in any product per se, but she does encourage a healthy diet, because crappy food shortens those telomeres. And so a crappy lifestyle shortens your telomeres. So, so the whole aspect where I talked about 5 phases, clean up the quality of food. But then, my thing is how do I stimulate that enzyme? The telomerase, because the higher that enzyme, they reverse engineered mice to where they were like 90 years old. They had white hair, they were kidney failure, they had cataracts, they couldn't get through mazes. And when they stimulated this enzyme, their brains grew 25%. Their white hair went dark. Their agility returned to that of a 35-year-old mice. Their cataracts went away. Their kidneys restored. They literally reverse aged these mice. So I turned around and used my compounding pharmacy aspect, my naturopathic into this, and I formulated this product. And I blended herbs to support that had telomere activity based upon their ability to support different functions. So astragalus, thousands of years old, immune activity, adrenal glands, liver response, milk thistle, liver. Always we think of liver, right? Ginkgo supports, stimulate circulation and to the brain. So, if you increase the brain size by 25% in these mice, what if I'm stimulating blood flow to the brain and giving the telomere, something that stimulates telomere? And all of these have shown telomerase activity. I've got research links on my website. Purslane, weed, most people pull out, but purslane is the richest source of omega-3 fatty acids. Stop pulling it out of your garden and throw it in your salads. But essential fatty acids help with the cell membranes and the ability of nutrients to move across cell membranes. Cynomorium is a Chinese yang tonic. It's considered the elixir of life for sexual vitality. It's not like giving somebody caffeine that they get all stimulated, but it increases energy and vitality. And we've had claim reports of people under 70s getting their sex life back. I tell people just go look up Vitalometry on Amazon and read the testimonies on Amazon.
So Amazon lets you sell it?
Yeah. Amazon lets us sell it. It's Vitalometry, Vitelometry.
And to the Facebook user that asked that question, you just answered it. So,
but I'm going to tell people to get it through our website, vitalometry.com. There's a link through drmisak.com. And if they use Dirobi, Dirobi, you'll get 10% off because you listen to the show and you're supporting Dave here.
Vitalometry. Okay. Now, and again, I'm sorry, but we tell people to buy stuff on our website all the time, and guess what? Most of them do. They go to Amazon.
Go to Amazon.
It's like, hey, Alexa, get me some Vitalometry.
Exactly.
So, hey, support the show, everyone. But hey, if you want the product, I'm okay with it. We're here to give out information, and if we make $1, that's fine, but it's not part of the deal. So,
right.
And I want to back up a minute. This is great. Love the product. I'm very interested. We need to swap some products here.
Did you get your bottle? We sent you a bottle.
I don't have it yet. Did you send it to my office or to my house? Do you know?
Should have asked Vince earlier. I know.
All shipping across the country is just jacked because of the winter storm. So it doesn't surprise me. We
formulated it 120 capsules. When I made the product, I made it so you could take up to 12 a day because there's a product called TA65. It's like $400 a month, up to $2,000 a month, depending on how much you take. And that's where they have their telomerase studies based upon cycloestragonol and astragaloside IV, both of which are in my product. And so, but I found that people could take 4 a day, either all 4 in the morning or 2 in the morning and 2 at noon, and it does them wonders. Mental clarity, better than that daily dose of Starbucks. You know what I mean?
I can't wait to get it. And thank you so much for sending me one. We'll send you out a package as well. We do to all our guests. And one of the products we're going to send you is Mimi's Miracle Minerals. And you had mentioned that when the body breaks down, it breaks down into minerals. Now, and this is not a shameless plug for Mimi's Miracle Minerals. It's a question for you after all the research you've done. One of the most amazing things that we found out after people started taking these trace minerals, and as you know, they're electrolytes as well, and electro, right? It's all
well, they're colloidal. You have to, in order for the body to utilize it, we were meant to get our minerals from food. Our food's just demineralized, and colloidal minerals traverse across and become available. So any of these liquid mineral supplements are colloidal form, and they're great. However, if you're looking at people's chemistry, sometimes it'll drive up their conductivity relative to their other numbers. And some people need it, particularly the anemic people and stuff like that. But others, it can cause a little bit of irritation and cause a little anxiety and nerve irritation. So I love those products, and I use stuff like that. I thank you. I look forward to trying it. Yeah.
My question about it, though, was, and I think you might have already answered it. We started to get crazy reviews on that. If you go to Amazon right now and look at them, you can see that the benefits people get are all over the map. Some of them we don't even publish because part of it, we just don't want to ever have someone think that something miraculous can happen We'd love that. How do I say this? We love it when great things happen when people take supplements. It's just that it doesn't always replicate for everybody.
Right.
And
you can't make claims. I understand.
You can't make claims.
Right.
And yet, honestly, I was like, why would that even happen? But I think that some of these outlying ones, let's just put it that way. Some of these claims seem like outlying, just crazy off the charts stuff. And I always was a little bit skeptical, even myself as a supplier. I'm like, this is great, but maybe it's placebo. But what you're saying is this energy principle makes a lot of sense. It's not just filling in nutritional gaps. What you're saying is it's filling in electrical or,
it is the foundation for your body in order to make energy comes from mineral related issues.
Right.
I am telling you to eat specific foods because of the higher quantity of certain minerals that are in those foods and teaching you a diet based upon your chemistry. Everybody, if you have a disease, Carrie Ream says that you have a mineral deficiency. Okay. And what my system does is teaches people which minerals that they need to focus in on. If you're not taking anything and you just start taking a colloidal mineral product, I guarantee you most people are going to start noticing a positive benefit. And that's what you're experiencing. The problem is they get to a certain point and certain trace minerals are like, okay, I'm good on this, but they're not hitting the ones that they really need that are controlling, which is usually the sources of calcium and forms of calcium. Certain forms move your pHs up, certain forms move your pHs down, and depending on where your chemistry is dictates which forms are best from you. You need to look at the work of Hans Neiper, Neipper. Hans Neiper, he wrote a book called The Curious Man, and he taught how minerals are cofactors all the way down to the DNA on how things are moving through and activating in the body. So I take Reams's, Neipers, I use Rife machines, I use all these things saying like, this is what I can identify, this is what I know you need, and this is the best source of it for you. But when you're looking at from a general standpoint, yes, I teach it's either deficiency or excess. You can have heavy metal toxicity or whatever. Mm-hmm. And if you have an excess, the thing is that your body has mechanisms to get rid of excesses. And if you can't get rid of the excess, then you're deficient in something because your body can't handle it. And it's usually a mineral.
Okay. So let's back up for a minute to diet. You and I both sell supplements and are both very proud of our supplements, I'm sure. And yet as a fitness nutrition coach, I teach people that supplements are like putting spray paint on an old rusty car if you're not taking care of the engine and getting a good diet. I like the triad of nutrition, fitness, and supplementation to support the fitness and nutritional aspect. So, and I spend a lot of time on nutrition on this show. And so I don't need you to do a deep dive. I know that it'll take you, a very long time to teach every dietary principle, but give us your top 4 or 5, and based on your clinical work. So very practical stuff. What are the top things you're having to get people to shift in their diet to improve their health?
Food sensitivity is number 1. What are you eating that's a poison to your body? Perfect for you, poison to me. Okay. Most people, wheat across the board, American-made wheat products are poison. Get them out of your diet, you'll feel better. When people don't get tested, that's where I use electrodermal testing to say, hey, stay away from these foods. Some people do food allergy testing, or even if you're out there and like, I can't afford testing, do the blood type diet. Pay $15 on Amazon. If you don't know your blood type, type yourself. Do the blood type principle as an elimination diet. Stay away from those foods for a month, and you'll see a change because certain foods cause agglutination and irritation. Number 1. Number 2 is not just metabolic typing, because Mercola and Dr. Oz and those people teach about metabolic typing, fast oxidizers, slow oxidizers, how well your metabolic rate. Well, minerals dictate your metabolic rate. So I teach ranges that if you test your chemistry and you understand what range you're in, if you are a fast oxidizer, your chemistry is moving too fast and you need foods to slow it down. And those are based upon the calcium forms that'll raise the pH. If your chemistry is too slow, you need foods that'll speed it up. And you will see slow oxidizers are associated with what we call the BC range. Fast oxidizers are associated with the DE range. And mixed oxidizers, people who would get in the restorative range, can eat on any side of the equation. But if you're measuring yourself, you'll learn which foods swing you and that you really need to watch out for. So I teach people to understand your chemistry, learn your patterns, and you learn a diet that'll work for you for the rest of your life.
Wonderful. And you're saying the easiest way to do that is eat right for your blood type.
No, I'm saying that's a way to start for food sensitivities.
Oh, okay.
I tell people to get a refractometer and pH strips. A refractometer is 0 to 10 bricks, measure the bricks percentage, and that tells you sugar regulation, and that tells you how much water to drink or whether you're eating the wrong foods. It'll spike up if you're eating a food allergy. It'll crash if you're eating a wrong carbohydrate because your pancreas oversecretes insulin. pH tells you the speed. And so if your pHs are too high, we focus in on foods that'll speed it up, or have a little bit of vitamin C will speed it up. Okay, if your pHs are too low and it's going too fast, you need more vitamin D, and we give foods that bring it to speed it up. So we bring you into a range, and when you hone your energy efficiency in, everything just starts to fix because you're accepting minerals more efficiently, and your body starts to repair and dump, and you go into detox. And I sit there and explain how you go through these patterns. We could talk for hours on this stuff.
Yeah, I know. And we have a question. Is Vitalometry a colloidal mineral product then? Or
No,
what is it?
Vitalometry does have calcium phosphate, a product called Mincol, because calcium 60%, phosphorus 24%. Your bone, your skeletal muscle, your skeleton is what breaks down. And when you're too acidic, you're buffering that acidity by pulling calcium phosphate from your bone. And phosphate groups are needed for you to digest and to build healthy cells, amino acids. So there is a little bit of a mineral colloid in it called Mincol, because calcium regulates the ability of all minerals to go in and out of the cell. Calcium is the regulator. And but no, it's an herbal product.
Okay.
And so it's really a food-based supplement, if you want to call it that, because it's basically herbs. And it has a little bit of nutritional because it's got that cycloastragenol and the astragaloside 4 in there. Again, if you go to docmisak.com, click on the Vitalometry link, or if you go to vitalometry.com, it's all the information. We even use it to come out with a canine product called Canine Telometry because I had a dog named Clara, and Clara was 13 years old and couldn't make it up the stairs, cataracts, losing control of bladder. And at that point I had my product, and my wife's like, we need to put her down. I'm like, let me try something beforehand. So I started bringing home my product, and I mix it in a bag and I sprinkle it over her food with some collagen. And within a week, she regained bladder control, and she lived to be over 15 years old. Wow.
That's a beautiful story.
2 more years by giving her this product. So, so that we just released that this past month.
Nice. Okay. Well, excellent. Now, another talking point, and one that's near and dear to my heart, is stress management. I'm a meditator, and people probably get sick of me talking about this subject, but I love it. It's probably one of the most boring things to talk about because it's a very quiet and not a real exciting thing to talk about. But look, it's changed my life. I started my meditation habit 5 years ago when I was going through an incredibly difficult time. And I don't want to get into the details of that other than it was just probably the worst thing I ever went through. And a practice of meditation is what just saved me. And I can't say it any other way. I've been to retreats since then. And I've come to personally appreciate the value of not only stress management, but all the other things that come from having a meditation practice. Now, I don't know if that's where you were going at all in terms of stress management. I just know that you're big on stress management and understanding that it even affects our DNA. So I am excited to hear you talk about this.
In this book specifically, she talks about meditation and breathing techniques to increase your telomeres. And I talked about that 5 phases that I have in self-awareness. If you watch my last 3 or 4 videos, I've talked about choice. I've talked about mental dis-ease. I've talked about what motivates you, where your motivation's coming from. And so I definitely bring this aspect of mental self-awareness is what it comes down to. So you can only think if people have the Disney Channel, and on the Disney Channel, they have the National Geographics, and on there they have a channel called Brain Games. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Watch episode number 2 about memory, and it'll blow your mind.
Really?
Basically, they show you that the brain measurement can only think of one thing at a time, but and how the brain will put things in there because you've trained your brain to think in a particular about the world around you. So yes, you can retrain your brain, and that's how, like I said, Milton Erickson, father of hypnosis. You can learn to self-hypnotize, but that's basically what you're doing is you're changing your subconscious on how your conscious level thinks and what you expect, which comes down biblically to belief. Bible says, hey, you want the mountain to move, tell it to move. What do you think about? Things that are right, pure, holy. There's power of life and death in the tongue. What are you speaking over your life? What are you thinking? What do you believe? It's expecting and knowing it's going to happen, not just turning around and I don't know. You hear.
So what do you teach people? What type of practices do you recommend? How do you have people apply? Once they understand, okay, stress can affect my DNA. Now what?
I mean, it all starts with breath. It really does. I encourage people to find a meditation app that works for them. I have clients who do Wim Hof. Are you aware of Wim Hof?
I am. Yeah. I actually have a cold shower every day because of Wim Hof.
So if you learn like Wim Hof breathing techniques, you're affecting your autonomic nervous system and how your body responds to stress, and you're retraining your subconscious. So I try to meet people with where they are, but bottom line, they need to learn self-awareness. Like right now, if you close your eyes and take a deep breath in, what are 3 things you feel? What are 3 things you taste? What are 3 things you see? What are 3 things you hear? Just become aware of where you are in that moment, because our brain is filling in the pieces for us. So if you want to change things, you have to change the awareness of where you are and how you respond to a stimuli. We all have emotional crap, right? But the question is we empower those emotions to affect our health. You have to realize that emotions are neither right nor wrong. They're how you interpret them based upon your filters. So let's clean the slate and say, hey, I love the holistic psychologist. She's coming out with a book this coming month, and she teaches that, hey, if you're dependent on somebody else to feel, in order to be happy, that's codependency, or you need to empower yourself to take control of your emotions and not say something's right or wrong, because it's only right or wrong because of the filters that you've been trained to think about. Make sense?
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your personal practice from this. I mean, tell us, do you have a breathing routine or time of day you do things? You do work it in throughout your routine? How do you apply this?
A lot of times is my evening. I have an infrared sauna at home, and I'll sauna, and then I'll jump into a shower and flip it on to cold, and then I get out, and then I do stretching and a back roller and just meditation that way, and have my personal quiet time. I do it at night. I know you could train yourself to be a morning person, but I just haven't worked on doing that. I enjoy I enjoy my evenings, and I can explain that chemically, because sugars naturally come up in the evening. And so people who tend to crash between 11 and 2 don't like mornings. They feel a little bit better in the evenings. They can have that one moment where I'm good, and the next minute, like, oh my God, I need to eat something right now. You're a sugar crasher, and that's why my evening is my best time. So I find that I've used binaural beats. I've used the Muse. Have you ever seen the Muse, the headband for measuring?
Yeah, I've done it. Yeah.
Great app for teaching yourself how to recognize when you're meditating and when you're finding that aspects of quiet time. So I can now put on, I love solfeggio frequencies, and using solfeggio frequency and binaural beats and putting that music on to bring myself down to that theta, that between theta and delta state, where I can have those epiphanies and clear my mind, because it all, hey, the Bible says, be still and know that I am. I have my God time, in meditation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think it's important. Those who've listened to me about it, I am a morning person. But the fact is that we know from the research, there's been tons of research on mindfulness and meditation and different systems. And what we know is it is absolutely not a one size fits all. It's just not. And for you to teach it and do it in a very different way than me, I think is wonderful. And there's just people that if you tell them, sit down and spend the first 20 minutes of your day meditating, they just don't want to. It just doesn't feel right. It's not the right time of day. And so that's why I love your answer. It's very different than an answer I would give. And that's terrific, because the fact is there is no one size fits all. And there's also a huge difference between people and the way our minds work and what is best for us. There's some people that are very mindful all day long. They're just born that way. It's just in their DNA. And others that are completely scatterbrained from morning till night. We all are somewhere on the spectrum. And so I love that your answer is unique and that you have figured out a system for yourself.
Well, mindfulness is discovering yourself, because everybody out there, if you have some type of self-hatred or something you don't like about yourself, well, I'm sorry, but you got to live with yourself. So you can choose that person that you want to live with by making that choice. So it's three things. Number one is choice. Number two is desire. Do you want to be who you are, or do you want to be somebody different? Because only you can decide who you are and how you define yourself. Number two is you got to make the choice. But number three is the hard one. That's perseverance that the Bible talks about. Because you have to put it in and you have to hang in there through the crap that happens through the change.
Okay, love it. Now I'm going to get into the weeds with you here for a couple minutes. We've been going a long time. I've kept you probably longer than you might have even planned on. But okay, well, I got just a couple more very simple questions.
I hope people are enjoying it.
They are enjoying it. We got lots of positive thumbs up. We got a couple of people using heart emojis on Facebook. So you know things are good if the heart emojis are coming out. Simple question. What is your favorite breakfast?
Oh, my favorite breakfast. Well, I'm a fast oxidizer, so I like protein, right? And so eggs are my thing. You know, I can do them as omelet. Half the time I make them in my office, and I'll do like fried eggs. I love basil and basil, a little bit of pepper, but I like basil on my fried egg. You know,
interesting. I've never heard of that.
Yep, a little bit of basil on there, and but then I also love spelt bread. You know, so wheat bread. Everybody classifies spelt as a wheat. You know, and but it really isn't. Spelt came before wheat. And it's just an ancient grain, but it's really clean. It tastes like wheat. And so many times homemade spelt bread is just delicious. So I'll have a little bit of spelt bread and maybe an egg on toast. And many times I'll have a piece of fruit with it. You know, I'll have sometimes it's oranges, sometimes it's an apple, sometimes it's cantaloupe, sometimes it's kiwi, sometimes it's mango. But fruit in the morning, you know, breakfast for a queen. If you like your sweets, you know, eat your fruit in the morning. Lunch for a king, biggest meal. So you're using the food that you're eating for energy through the day. Dinner for a pauper, because you do not need to store a bunch of calories and tell your body that, hey, I'm going to veg on the couch, but I'm going to eat all the food. And your body's like, what do I do with this? Let's shove it into chylomicrons and fat storage, you know? And so dinner,
lunch. What do you do for lunch?
I love a big salad. Many times I'll do tofu, non-GMO tofu and veggies, a little bit of rice. So little rice, lots of veggies, those type of things. I love salads, chicken on my salad. I like chicken salad on my salad, but usually mostly vegetable based, small amounts of meat, lean meats, if you're using oils, I like olive and avocado. Avocado can tolerate the temperature, but they're both monounsaturated fats. Gundry says, Stephen Gundry, the longevity factor or plant paradox is all about, hey, the only reason we eat is to get more olive oil in our bodies. I don't completely agree with that. It doesn't work that way with your chemistry, but you definitely need some healthy fats. So
dinner. What do you have for dinner?
I think I love onion soup, but without all of the massive amount of cheese, but onion soup and without all the bread. But onions are, when you stew onions, it's a natural bioavailable source of vitamin C. So it works wonders, particularly for immune activity and those type of things. But again, soup, salad in the evening. Sometimes it's hummus and veggies, something like that. Something
delicious.
Small.
And how about snacking? I get a lot of questions about snacking. People you get hungry between meals. They want to have a snack. I'm a big fan of within reason. Some people misunderstand their hunger. They just want to eat emotionally, and we understand that. But sometimes, especially for me, if I've had a really hard workout in the morning, and I also do intermittent fasting. I normally don't have my first meal till 10 or 11 o'clock.
Well, how many poppers get dinner? That's intermittent fasting.
Yeah, right. That's right. Skipping breakfast or a very light dinner really helps with that whole cycle. Right. But snacking, do you have a favorite snack or something you recommend to people for their between meals hunger?
I swing with snacking. Sometimes it's nuts. I used to eat walnuts and dates mixed together. I've done peanuts. I've done, again, vegetables. Every now and then it's Trader Joe's little chocolate Reese cups. They're better than Reese. I mean, God, even there, my sugars are going to crash, and then I'm turning around and having something else an hour later. And so I keep turkey, and I'll have a piece of turkey, because I'm a fast oxidizer, so I need that protein, So it varies. It really does vary. I
can't believe you mentioned Trader Joe's Reese's peanut butter cups. Those things are the devil.
That is the best dollar spent in America. $1 for 9 little dark chocolate Reese's cups. It's addiction. Don't buy the tub and get out of the store before you eat the first one, because you're going to want to go back and buy more.
Those things are little devils. And I haven't got smart like you. I buy the tub, but I have enough self-control to not buy the tub very often, maybe 3 times a year. But when I buy that tub, I'm telling you, it blows my diet for the next 24 hours.
Yeah. I get to a point where if I start cheating, because we all cycle, and if I cheat, I know how to reset my chemistry. I do fasting. Yeah. I do what I call goop cleanses. I do fasting with psyllium and clay and stuff, and just clean out my digestive tract. And I do colonics while I do it, because I got colon hydrotherapy here. I do infrared sauna. I do all that stuff. And so I'll reset my chemistry by fasting for about 3 to 5 days, do a couple colonics, and okay, I'm not going to eat that stuff again. But you go to a party and somebody made that homemade chocolate cake, and oh my God, it starts that addiction aspect, because I was raised on always having candy in front of me. So it's addiction. It's total addiction. And that affects sugar. And so once I walk down that cycle, and within a week, I'm feeling like, oh my God, I got to stop this, because once you have a little, I don't feel too bad. I'm just going to keep going back for more. People, we're all human. Yeah. I don't have the perfect diet always, but when I get on par, oh my God, let's go play some hoops or something. I'll kick your butt,
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I mean, this is stuff that we teach. We teach if the best you can do is 70% eating really healthy, then go 70%. It's better than what most people are doing. Right. And if you can get to 80, go to 80. And if you can get to 90, go to 90. But you know what I teach people? Don't go for 100.
Right.
It will drive you nuts.
Well, what I teach is that, we have a perfect equation for health. Okay. And that perfect is in all of us. That potential for perfect is in all of us. But there's no way, Dr. Reams even talked that historically I've heard of 3 people who have reached perfect numbers. You know what I mean? So you don't get perfect chemistry unless you are willing to go off the grid, look at everything that you're eating, get rid of your pleasures and whatever else.
And guess what? Your stress will go right back up. Yeah. See, there's a balance, right? There's a balance. And you can't tell me that perfect doesn't include at least a little chocolate, because that would not be a perfect worth achieving. So a little bit. The problem is when people binge, right? That's the part we want to stay away from. It's not binging. It's enjoying a little.
Right. The first part of that perfect equation is CS, common sense.
Yeah.
Reams didn't say don't eat sugar, but he said a 5-pound bag of sugar is fine for a year, not 2 weeks like most people do.
Hey, we've had the hearts. Now we're getting smiley faces, and amen, brother.
But again, it comes back to self-awareness.
Yay for chocolate.
But that mental, emotional aspect is self. So when you notice that you've done this excess, you'll feel it in your body. And at that point in time, you got to make the choice. Am I going to break this cycle, or am I going to keep going down and, and affect my health negatively by keep doing this?
Right.
So that's where self-awareness comes in. So I know my threshold, and believe me, I push it. How do I beat the system? So I know if I eat these foods, I'm going to go pop these mineral supplements because it's going to offset how I feel.
I'll tell you what I use that has worked for me for about the last 10 years really, really well is my body fat percentage. In precision nutrition, which is where I got my certification from, they talk a lot about how's that working for you. Because the fact is, there are a lot of people in this country, their goal is not to have six-pack abs and the body of a Greek god statue. That's not the goal. But they don't want cancer. They don't want heart disease. Well, not really. But I have a number of that I've got to know over the years through all my competitive training and everything. I know that for me, if I get too much sugar and if I'm eating junk, it affects my body fat. And I can tell now I've got it so dialed in that I just know what's too much. And so I base it on that. That may be very different than what you'd base it on based on the energy conversation, et cetera. I understand that.
I have a friend in Australia who teaches that you can run the first 4 numbers and understand hydration. He's working literally with Olympic athletes and like professional race car athletes, and he's monitoring their chemistry and saying, okay, prior to the race, this is what you need to do: load up, drink this water, and whatever else. And he has professional like NASCAR racer there, and after performing, they usually need 3 days to recoup from the race because of the physical nature of driving 500 miles under those extreme things. And this guy was like, the next day, I'm ready to go again. He has the Olympic athlete that performs in BMX biking does his RBTI program. And the guy came to America and won the American thing this past year. And he said, I gave it everything I got, and I never once felt tired.
Because of what again?
By learning how to eat based upon their chemistry, by learning how to hydrate and what foods are appropriate to keep their chemistry in that balance. So he is bringing it to the performance level. And he has, so if Australia starts kicking our ass, I know like he has their rugby team. I know he's got a lot of their athletes are starting to incorporate using this RBTI concept, but of how to eat based upon their chemistry. But we haven't brought it to America because we can't have a source of diagnosis, treatment, cure, or prevention, or we're going to get slammed and we're going to get thrown in jail for committing a felony of telling people to do something. So I've created a nonprofit that people become a private group that are going to disclose after my book comes out how you can run your chemistry at home, put your numbers into a computer program, and it's going to outline your diet. It's going to outline your supplement regimen, and we're going to give you a prescription for monitoring your chemistry towards the ideal. But we haven't brought it because when this was released in the 1970s, Dr. Reams was thrown in jail in 15 different states for teaching people how to fast and how to eat based upon their chemistry, and he was curing tens of thousands of people of incurable diseases. Read the stories. It's amazing stuff. So
people need to just
we have to be careful that I don't want to be thrown in jail for teaching a form of diagnosis. So if you read my articles on Doc Misak that I put on Naturopathic Doctor News and Review, NDNR, if you go to ndnr.com and you put my name in there, Misak, you'll find my articles. And And I basically disclose in my articles, this is not diagnosis because I'm in a non-licensable state for naturopaths.
And for those of you who are listening and don't have the visual, Misak is M-I-S-A-K. And for those of you joining us late, he has offered a discount using the word Dirobi, our company brand, D-I-R-O-B-I. And full disclosure, I will make some money if you buy using that or something. Or you'll give me a bottle. You do something, right?
I already gave you a bottle. You haven't gotten it
yet. Gave me a bottle. And so we have to disclose if there's any kind of affiliate relationship, which is kind of not. I didn't sign as an affiliate or anything. But regardless, the product is available on Amazon, or you can get it at, what's your website?
It's either vitalometry.com, Vitelometry, Or if you go to Doc Misak, D-O-C Misak, MISAK.com, there is a link to Vitalometry there where you can buy either the Vitalometry or for your dogs. It's amazing.
Okay, hold those two up so we can see them one last time so people know what they look like. So those are the products, and the main idea here is to increase longevity, right? That's the main thing.
Yeah,
keep those telomeres healthy.
Yeah, I keep them by my, when I wake up in the morning, I pop 6 of them.
They can be taken on an empty stomach.
Yep, they don't upset mine at all. I pop 6 right when I get out of bed.
Well, that is cool. Thanks so much for introducing us to that. And as was mentioned earlier, Doc Misak, he's got a YouTube channel. He puts out a lot of great content. So make sure and look him up online, follow his stuff. And speaking of energy, you've got great energy. It has been fun to be here with you for an hour, just shooting the bull. Is there anything you want to share before we let you go?
I just tell people the only person that can change your health is you.
Great quote. We'll end with that.
If anybody wants to be accountable and you have an accountability partner, the only one that's accountable that you need to be accountable to is yourself. So learn to love yourself because you got to live with yourself.
Okay. Love it. Thanks so much. And for those of you listening, this is Dave Sherwin wishing you health and success.